Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with MyLowe's Rewards. Earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Welcome to the Show Up Dad, where we explore fatherhood and share insights to support dads in being present for their families. I'm your host, David Mendonca, and today we have a very special guest. But before we start, I want to thank our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Tall Man Equipment, your go-to source for quality tools and equipment in the powerline industry. Visit tallmanequipment.com to see their great offerings. I also want to give a shout out to the Show Up Dad Foundation, dedicated to helping fathers become more engaged in their families through workshops and community support. To learn more about their mission, visit the showupdadfoundation.org. Today, guys, we have a very special guest. I have a privilege of having her on, Shana Fisk. She's an accomplished educator, a life coach, and the founder of a nonprofit organization. With nearly 30 years of experience in teaching, administration, and public speaking, Shana has dedicated her life to empowering others. In 2023, she established Hunter's Heart, a nonprofit born from the tragic loss of her youngest son, Hunter. This organization is dedicated to supporting men who find themselves in psychological abusive relationships by providing essential education, resources, and emotional support. Shana's unwavering commitment to making a positive impact in the lives of others is truly inspiring. So thank you, Shana, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and have you just tell us a little bit about your story, how it got started, and start there.
Okay, so I'll start with Hunter. Even as you were reading that, it sometimes doesn't feel real. So Hunter is my youngest son, and he was an apprentice lineman. And he is, I go back and forth between is and was, because was doesn't feel right, but he is no longer with us. I'll start there and then I'll go backwards. On March 11th, he died by suicide, spontaneous suicide. It was not planned. There wasn't a note. There was no indication, nor was he struggling with mental health issues, and broke my heart.
Can't even imagine. So sorry. So sorry.
Totally devastating. And going backwards, he was. Let me take a drink and get my bearings.
Please, yes, do.
I know you were one of his instructors at the JATC, which loved. As a baby, he was hilarious. I used to say that I didn't think I would laugh half as much as I laughed, through Hunter's life if he wasn't born, because he was just so stinking funny. He had 4 brothers and sisters. He was the youngest of the 5, and he was an amazing son. I had so much fun with him as a baby, as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult. Just like when he said he was coming over for dinner, it was just lit up my day. At the end, he was an apprentice lineman, I think I mentioned, working for the city of Riverside and living his best life. In terms of his career, he had found his people. He had found his brotherhood. He loved what he did. He worked all the overtime he could. He was a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that was going wrong in his life was his first relationship, which started right as COVID started. Mm-hmm. And he had not had a girlfriend prior to that. And so very inexperienced. And we did not think that it was a good relationship. We didn't think it was a healthy relationship. We had no idea. some of the stuff that was going on. But the things that we did see, we talked to him. We talked to him about red flags. We told him we didn't think this was a good situation for him. And he was just an eternal optimist. It was always, Ma, it'll get better. Just give it time. It'll get better. Watching him be alienated from family members and friends. It'll get better. She'll come around. Watching this easygoing kid just becoming totally stressed out.
Mhm.
And we thought a lot of that was work because he was working long hours, exhausted all the time. And so at one point he was engaged. The engagement got broken off, which devastated him. And there was a lot of back and forth, which I'll get into when I talk about these psychologically abusive relationships.
Yes.
He loved the gym. He loved working out. He was known for his muscles and his deep voice. He trained me for a period of time. He had a trainer probably for the last 5 years of his life. He died when he was 22. I actually just joined a gym today. I've been trying to go back to the gym since we lost him. And
Yeah.
it's been so hard.
I
Because
can imagine.
that was a place that I went to with him and that he loved. So that's Hunter. My story is that on March 11th, 2023, my world as I knew it came to a crashing halt. And I still remember in vivid detail that day because we were in such shock. I mean, we're still in shock. We're coming up on 2 years in March and we're in shock. It doesn't feel real. We don't understand how he could have gotten to a point where he was in such pain and anguish that he would do something like this. And yet, after talking to a lot of the guys I've been talking to over the last year, I'm starting to understand. Starting to understand the pain and the anguish and feeling like you're just so exhausted because you can't get it right. And so do you want me to talk about Hunter's heart?
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Shana, that I really picked up on is for our listeners is what are some of you said red flags, right? That as parents from the outside looking in, you guys are able to see things that he was in this fog with, you know what I mean? And I have a similar situation that we're going through now. You're not able to see the red flags because you love that person, you love hopes for the best, it wishes for the best. I mean, optimistic, like you said, but as parents outside looking in, what other red flags were there that you guys noticed, and how did you approach him with it, and how did he receive it, if you don't mind?
No, that's good. So we didn't know all the red flags that were happening. The ones we did see were that we saw somebody who was very effusive and all in very quickly with him. It moved very fast. It was talk of marriage very early on. I remember a time that it was, I'll talk about this later, but the love bombing had come to an end because he came home. He was supposed to go somewhere with his girlfriend and he came home and I was like, "What are you doing home?" And he said, I need to change. And I was like, "Why do you need to change?" And as it had turned out, his pants were stained. His shirt didn't match. He was wearing the wrong shoes. This is the beginning of the shaming. I was like, wow, that's kind of intense. Like my husband dresses not great sometimes. And sometimes I'll tell him and sometimes I don't, but I'd never have him go home and change.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest one for us was I'm trying to think of how to say it. His older brother and Hunter were extremely close, very, very close, slept in the same room until high school. Hunter was his best man. And there was a dissolution of that relationship. And Hunter thought he was defending her honor.
Mm-hmm.
But his brother was seeing things, and his brother knew things we didn't know. His brother was seeing things that were huge red flags for him. Cheating, flirting at the gym, friends trying to tell Hunter this is not good and Hunter not listening. So the way we approached it was, Hunter, you and your brother have been close your whole life. What's going on? And then it would be met with anger. And then it was, you're losing some of your friends, your lifelong friends. What's going on? Well, lots of other reasons for it, but all roads led to this relationship.
Yeah.
And, his dad has some guilt because he didn't say more. And I'm like, Mark, you talked to him till you were blue in the face. I mean, you couldn't have said any more.
Yeah.
And it was met with two things. If you push too hard, it was met with anger.
Yeah.
But initially it was, it'll get better. She'll come around. It's going to be okay. And for me, I tried talking to him several times, and I even used the word red flags. These are red flags. This is not good. This is not a healthy relationship. This is not how healthy relationships work. And it was, Ma, you don't understand. He was the expert at 22, and like you said, he was also in the fog. So the way that I have talked to parents since this happened is be bold, put it all out there. I wish I had said more later on. I was walking a very fine line because I had watched people be removed from his life. And I had had a period of time, about 4 months, where she was angry with me. And I didn't see Hunter much during those 4 months. He made an effort, but it was always very quick stops at home. So I didn't want to lose him. I was scared to death of losing him. And I tell parents today, don't blast them, but don't be afraid to say, this is not going to end well. Of course, I know things now. I didn't know then. Like, this can end in death. This can end in jail. This can end in bankruptcy. I mean, this is not going to end well, relationships like this. So,
man, it's interesting to see that because, it's hindsight 2020 and we all wish that we can do something different. And I totally get that. I do. I like that you said that you're encouraging parents to say the hard things. And it's absolutely true. I know for me, my parents would always warn me. And, in that fog, you don't think about it. You do not think about it. You're just trying to make that person happy however you can. And it's that enmeshment that you find yourself in, right? You start segregating from your family, they start belittling your family. They start with the reverse psychology. Oh, your family doesn't like me, and it's constantly just defending them instead of seeing through that fog and being like, man, you're the issue. That's wow.
That's exactly right. Everything you just said. And, I was just thinking while you were talking, I didn't realize that he was in a psychologically abusive relationship. Quite frankly, I didn't really realize that was a thing. And what I'm finding out in the last, year and a little bit is how many men are suffering in relationships like this. And it's excessive. I call it an epidemic.
Yes, I agree. It is an epidemic. Do you have any statistics or anything like that you have as far as how many men are actually committing suicide after, in these relationships or anything like that?
So I have seen some statistics from Local 47. They're not necessarily correlated to relationships. They are deaths by suicide, deaths by overdose, and then deaths on the line. And I don't have those numbers. I haven't gotten them yet, but I can tell you that deaths on the line are down here. Deaths by suicide are up here, and overdose. Anecdotally, the statistics that I'm getting are, and this is what I said to a room full of men last week, is you're either in a relationship like this, you've been in a relationship like this, or you know someone who's in a relationship like this. Those are my anecdotal stats. It's really hard to get numbers with men because of the shame.
It is. It's a lot of shame built around it because we're meant to fix things and we look at things through a logical lens. One thing that I've learned is women are very, very emotional.
Yeah.
And we can't take what they say at the moment for face value. Because in that moment, they'll be, oh, I hate you. You know what I mean? The next minute, I love you. And it's just like this weird up and down, and if you get caught up in that, it makes you start questioning your own sanity.
Yes.
And with that being said, I think men need to really, really start focusing on those red flags that are there. I
Yes.
do,
Yes.
you know.
And men need to start sharing with other men what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's another big difference between women and men are when women are in a relationship like this, because of course it goes both ways. There are men who are narcissists and there are women who are narcissists. And women are in a relationship like this, they're calling their, best friend, their mom, their coworker, and talking about these things. They're getting all the resources because there's a million things out there for women. For the men, it's how are you doing? How you doing, Hunter? Oh, I'm fine. I'm good. And fine and good does not mean fine and good.
Mm-mm.
And I think men need to start sharing, need to get honest when things are not going well, and other men need to push a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I mean, men don't really want to open up about this stuff, you know what I mean? And when you bottle that all up and you feel like you can't talk to anybody about it, you just feel like you're going to explode. I mean, it's your stomach's twisting. You're constantly stressed out. It starts affecting every aspect of your life, from your job, your career, your work, your relationships, everything. It's just this poison.
And I
And we need to be able to have a place that we can go to and be able to speak on these things, because it's not okay. It is not.
No, it's not. And I think, as you're talking, I'm like, that's probably everything he was feeling at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I tell people, read his story. Read his story on our website and share it with other people,
Mm-hmm.
because I think people underestimate how dangerous relationships like this are.
It's mind blowing. I wanted to read you something real quick. Being that we look at things through a spiritual aspect, right? The spiritual root of narcissism is a sense of pride which ingrains them into their ways, that thinking that their ways are superior. Pride comes from feelings of low self-worth, and one must shift their perception and frequency to view themselves as someone who is of high worth, and for other people being of high worth also, otherwise arrogance happens. So it boils down to the person actually feeling really low about themselves. So they have to actually put other people down, sense
Yes,
the shaming and stuff like that, or you're always the problem. You
yes,
know, you need to do the work. It's never any kind of accountability on their behalf.
yes. So the way a therapist explained it to me last week, I Zoomed with this therapist who specializes in narcissistic abusive relationships.
Mm-hmm.
She said, all narcissists are emotionally immature.
Mm-hmm.
Not all emotionally immature people are narcissists.
I agree 1000%. Another way I've heard it say is that wherever there's been trauma or wherever the damage has been done that you haven't healed it, you will always go back. You'll never grow past that place of arrested development. So wherever you were stuck at, wherever the trauma happened, whether it be a divorce when you're 8 years old and is a horrendous divorce, right? That just tore your heart, just really broke your heart. You're going to stay stuck in that forever. And that's the lens you're going to look at all your other relationships. And you stay stuck in that arrested development. It's sad. It is, because unless you get the help, that type of bitterness, that type of anger, that type of resentment that you haven't dealt with from childhood poisons and bitters everything.
Yeah. So as a mom or dad, and your child is in a relationship, look at the significant other. Do they have healthy relationships with their parents? Do they have healthy relationships with their siblings? Do they have friends? These are
Mm.
things that I didn't realize are also red flags.
Mm-hmm. No,
Red
that's a good thing.
flags, you know?
Yeah, because your family of origin is where you learn. So, say, for instance, if your dad was a narcissist, or your dad abused you, or your dad, for whatever reason in your head think that he abandoned you for whatever reason, right? Now you grow up with that pain, that wound, that hurt, and now you're carrying it out. Now you're like a wounded animal, and now you're lashing out on everybody, and you're covering it with this narcissistic behavior where everybody else is the problem, not you.
Right. And the guys that I talk to consistently say that. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what they do. They cannot make them happy. I mean, they do in the beginning with the love bombing, but they cannot fix her. They want to. They want to just have peace. They want to have harmony. They want to have a good relationship. They just want to take care of their woman. And this woman, this type of woman, will not be taken care of.
Nope. Like I said, they're forever stuck in their arrested development. And it's our nature, too, to fix things. As Lyman, you said something earlier that we are the salt of the earth, right? And I agree. Our natural tendencies is to help people, to really help people, and whether it be getting their power back on, whether it be helping somebody change out their transmission. I mean, we can do anything as linemen, and I'm proud to be a part of this brotherhood. I truly, truly am.
Well,
and we try to take that same can-do attitude into every aspect of our life, even our relationships, our marriages.
Right. And I tell linemen, because I do believe that the linemen are the salt of the earth. These guys that I keep meeting, they're amazing. And they just want to take care of things. Like you said, they just want to help. And Hunter just wanted to help. When Hunter would help, when he'd be on a crew and they'd help get the lights back on, my gosh. I mean, it would just light him up.
Mm-hmm.
And linemen are targets. They make good money. They want to just take care of their woman. And they could just have a bullseye on their back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always something that's real troubling. We make, better than most people in our living. And all you need is somebody who's not in it for the right reason to target you and see that you're good natured, see that you have everything to give to them, right? And then just totally just destroy it because their own family of origin and what they've learned. And instead of stopping generational curses, they continue with the same behavior.
Yeah. And no matter what you do, if you're in a relationship like this, no matter what you do, no matter what you buy them, no matter how you take care of them, it will never be enough.
Yeah, because they have that void. There's a void inside them that nothing's ever good enough. And I honestly believe that these type of people, these individuals, they don't even know what's going to satisfy them. They're empty. So they're constantly, you need to change here. You need to change here. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to do this. And then when that doesn't fill their cup, then they start tearing you down.
Yeah. And that's
You're
where
the bad guy.
making happens. Because you're like, what's going on? I'm not doing anything differently than I was a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's bad. I went from being all good. I went from being perfect, the perfect guy, to now I'm this and I'm that, and I need to stop this and that, and I need to start this and that. It's overwhelming for a guy. Guys are simple creatures. They just just tell me what I need to do, and let's have a good life.
It's crazy that you said that, because I've had experiences with other men where they stopped drinking, they stopped chewing, they stopped pornography. They did everything they could to change for this person. And then the person winds up complaining about the person they changed to and seeks out a person that did all the bad behavior that they themselves didn't like. You know what I'm saying? So that goes back to showing that these people their mind is fractured. When I say that, I mean double-minded. The Bible says that a double-minded person is unstable in all their ways. So double-minded in the Greek actually means spiritually fractured. That's 1 minute they're all in, 1 minute they're all out. And I call it spiritual schizophrenia because that's how it is. It's a roller coaster. 1 minute, like you said, you're the love of my life. Oh my God, you're my boo, all this stuff. And the next minute they're doing all these crazy things that are inflicting harm on you. They have no idea the amount of harm and pain they're putting you through. It's almost like they're sadistic in the way they do things. And it's sad when I see these things. It is.
It's heartbreaking. And the stories that I hear, I was at an event this last summer, and a man came up to our table after I spoke, And he had tears in his eyes, an older man, like when I say older, like 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hi, I'm Shana. And he said, he kind of barely got out the words, I was in a relationship like that. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And he said, it was 40 years ago. As
Wow.
his eyes well up with tears. And I said, can you tell me how you got out? Because that's a big thing I'm trying to do some research on right now. I didn't tell him the research part, but just, can you tell me, how did you get out? And he said, I can't talk about it. And he walked away 40 years ago.
Man,
The kind of damage that relationship did to that poor guy.
40 years of carrying that baggage, man. Wow. So for you guys listening right now, just understand that you're not alone in this. There's nothing to be ashamed about. This happens to the best of people, both women and men, of course, but seek help. Seriously seek help, because no one is worth you getting sick over or ending your life. Absolutely not. And it's unfortunate that these things take place. This is the fallen world we live in. It's sad. Shana, I wanted to ask you, what is the age demographics that you typically see this most occurring to? Like, what range have you been seeing?
So when we started out, I started my nonprofit, Hunter's Heart. Our mission statement was directed to young men.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to support young men. Thinking young men would be middle school to 25. And what we found early on was this was really not young men. Yes, young men suffer with these kinds of relationships, but this was running the whole gamut. And in October, the board of Hunter's Heart voted unanimously to remove the word young, because there's guys who are in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. One of my friends, her dad is in his 70s and is in a relationship like this. And that guy's wife will not let him see his two daughters, will not let him be around his daughters, will not let him have a phone conversation with his daughters unless she's in the room and it's on speaker. And my friend said he's just withering away. He's literally dying.
Mm-mm.
And we can't be there for him. So I don't think there is an age group. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe in 5-10 years, when you ask me that, I'll have a better idea. But right now, it's seeming like there is a wide range.
It's crazy too, because you see the trends. Like, first I saw toxic masculinity. That was a big deal. I even did a podcast on that with Dr. Stephen Poulter. And we talked about, toxic masculinity thing. And then now all of a sudden TikTok feeds are, narcissism, reverse narcissism, gaslighting. It's like, it's just coming out of the woodwork, all these different terminologies that we've never seen before. We live in this information age where it's like information overload. You could look up something and it pops up, and I think a lot of times, because of this information overload, we don't know how to regulate it, right? Because if it's bad for our kids to even have a device for an hour, and we're adults, our minds are already stuck in a certain way, and we're on this continuously feeding all this information to us, not doing anything with it. It's going to twist your mind. It's going to twist you up.
Well, and you're so susceptible to it. What's
Yeah.
crazy is when I started Hunter's Heart, I had to explain to people when I would go and speak, I'd have to explain what gaslighting was. They'd never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
I had to explain narcissism. They'd never heard of it. All of a sudden, it's exploding on TikTok. It's all you hear now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I mention these phrases, everyone, there's acknowledgement, not everyone, but a lot of people know what I'm talking about now. And I was talking to this therapist last week who's helping us with some stuff for Hunter's Heart. And she said TikTok is what made it explode.
Yep. TikTok made it explode.
And so what I do on the Hunter's Heart Instagram page, the Instagram page is where we're the most active. And so I'll post pictures of Hunter, and things that Hunter's Heart is doing. And then I'll post quotes or little videos. And what I do is when I see quotes and little videos and little pictures of things that I would send him today,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what I know, I post it on our page.
Man, yeah, I could definitely
These
see how
little
that would,
sprinkles.
yeah, a little bit at a time, just getting that information out there. And that's, it's sad. It truly is sad. I believe that, these people that suffer with this tendency, I don't believe there's any kind of help for them, honestly.
Well, there isn't. So there's a spectrum, and I don't mean
Okay.
the spectrum, but so there's narcissistic traits, and we all probably have some
Yes.
narcissistic traits, because basically anytime you're selfish, it's a narcissistic trait. So you've got narcissistic traits, and then you go all the way over, and it's NPD, narcissistic personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
People who have narcissistic personality disorder are not going to get better from that.
Mm-hmm.
That is a personality disorder. There's no medication. There's no fix. They can be in lifelong therapy, which would be a wonderful thing. But typically what happens with somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder is everyone around them ends up in therapy. They don't end up in therapy.
That's sad. That is absolutely sad because they will never look at themselves in the mirror. They'll never say, I'm the problem.
Well, they're not able to. They actually don't have the capacity to. Because think about it, the arrested development, if that happened at 8 or 9.
Yeah, they're programmed.
Self-reflection is not going to be there. And, people who have, Hunter's heart is very specific to romantic relationships, but I, of course, hear stories about other relationships. And if somebody has a narcissistic boss, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see all the people who are under that boss in therapy.
Yeah.
But the boss is still doing what the boss is doing.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's really sad, man. It's when you look at it through that perspective, my gosh, it's sickening. It really is.
And it's heartbreaking because you've got a narcissistic mom or dad, and those kids all end up in therapy, but the mom or dad doesn't because they don't see anything wrong with any of their behavior. It's their kids, or it's always everybody else when you're coming from that lens. And what's heart-wrenching is hearing stories of men ending their life like Hunter, or hearing stories of men in jail or out of the trade or bankrupt or alone. And those stories, I hear those stories every time I speak, and they still, they probably always will break my heart, because these men in particular, because we're speaking from the men's perspective, they don't know what hit them.
No.
I was just trying to be a good guy. I was just trying to take care of her. They are totally blindsided.
Yeah. Imagine the betrayal too.
Yes. So that's another red flag, cheating. It's not that everybody who cheats is a narcissist, but if someone's cheating and then they're telling you that what you know to be true is not true, now they're gaslighting you. And that's a whole thing.
Or like trickle truth, where they tell you a little bit and then.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
That's a very painful way of disclosure.
Yeah, and I think it's like death by 1,000 razors, honestly, with the trickle truth like that. I see people that are narcissistic, one common thing is that it's a self-protection mechanism.
Yeah, I agree.
It truly is, especially like from a wound, like a father, right? It's one thing to experience that rejection and malice from a brother or sister, but when that rejection or malice comes from a father, man, it is deep. It is deep, and it just really, really traumatizes your children when they have to experience that. Then now they're creating this personality disorder where I have to protect myself. This is how I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to admit nothing, deny everything, and make counter accusations, literally.
Yeah, and there's some stats out there about narcissists. A lot of them come from a narcissistic parent, and they become narcissists. But it always originates, I shouldn't say always, usually originates from some kind of trauma or repeated trauma.
Well, think about it. The house is the ultimate training ground. That's where you're learning all your skills to be a person of substance in the world. You know what I mean? Part of our jobs as parents is to train our children up in the admonition of the Lord and try to help them to reach maturity, to have values and goals and good character and morals. And when you're at that age and you're growing up with this narcissistic mother or father, they're the ones who are the image bearers of who you should be. So now your brain, right, is developing all these little ruts in it to where you're picking up their personalities. You're picking up their tendencies, their ability to lie, to manipulate, to gaslight. And now you grow up, you fall back to that because that's your arrested development. And now that's what you do. And honestly, it's like a river of mud. It just continuously goes on. And in your wake, you're creating damage.
Yeah. You're creating, well, it's the generational curse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
You can usually trace it back.
Yeah, absolutely. How is Hunter's heart now through, I know you're going out there and you're bringing awareness to this, but what's the next big thing for your foundation? Like, what are your plans for it? Like, what's your vision?
We're working right now. We're really vigorously working on our resources and boosting those up. And that my meeting with the therapist it's to help us with our resources.
Mm-hmm.
So our last big thing was our quizzes. And now there's quizzes on our website on huntersheart.org where you can take a quiz if you think you're in a relationship like this, or if you're the loved one, you're the parent or the friend or the foreman of somebody and you think they're in a relationship like this. There's 2 different quizzes with next steps. In terms of the next big thing, I mean, for me, this is what I tell people is, and it's so true, is I'm standing in the gap for Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So my life mission has changed radically. And Hunter wanted to help people. So I am trying to help people. And whether that is one guy at a time, one heart at a time, one DM at a time, one phone conversation at a time. I don't want to think too big and I don't want to think not big enough.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of took off without me. Like I was not expecting to have as many speaking engagements and as many conversations as we did this first year. We've only been around since October of 23. So what is that? 13 months?
Yeah.
So sometimes I think about, wow, maybe someday I'll do a TED Talk or I'll, focus on the family or, where I could really reach a lot of people. But I don't know. I'm kind of leaving it open. I'm trying to, since this platform is a Christian platform, I'll go there. Hunter's Heart was downloaded to me by God.
Mm-hmm.
It was not something I wanted to do. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, 7 months after I lost my son.
Mm.
At the time, I was barely getting out of bed. And it was a relentless, you're doing this. And people coming around me, my son, a week after we lost Hunter, saying, Mom, I know you're going to start a nonprofit. And when you do, I want to be involved. And I'm like, I can't even brush my teeth right now.
Yeah.
So I have gone through a real rough time with God, and I will get emotional because, I've had a hard time.
Yeah.
We raised our kids in a Christian home. Hunter loved the Lord. I, without a shadow of a doubt, know Hunter's in heaven, and I can't wait to see him again. But, trying to figure out, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Why didn't you let me know, God? Why weren't there more indications? That's been hard.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say I've been angry with God, but I've been hurt by God, really hurt.
Yeah.
And my husband, is in a different place. So he's like, do you want to go to church with me? And I'm like, no, I don't want to go to church. I have tried to go to church a few times and I start bawling during worship. So, my heart is still soft towards God. But we went on vacation 2 weeks ago in honor of Hunter. We took the vacation that he was planning, and I had some moments with God and I had some conversations with my husband about the difference between faith and trust. And I was really convicted on this vacation that I need to get my act together.
Yeah.
And, God has been walking along. It's like the footsteps, God's been carrying me. And it's time for me to, I've been obedient. I've been walking through every door that's opened, but kicking and screaming sometimes. So I That's a long answer to your short question that
Mm.
I'm going to leave it open to whatever he has in store, because he seems to do a better job than I do. A lot better.
I love that you say that. Yes, he promises to exchange our ashes for beauty. And I know without a doubt that we serve a great big God. So when you have these questions, God can handle it. When you question him or even being angry with God, you can handle it. He can handle it. I had the same conversations with my wife when she got sick, and she was extremely angry with God. And I'd tell her, man, we serve a big God. God can handle you being angry with him, but he wants to hear from you. That's what he wants. He wants you to turn to him so he can comfort you. He is the God of all comfort, and he will. And he is, and he's walking you through this every step of the way. The Bible says that he is a light unto our feet. Doesn't mean he's lighting up the whole way in front of us. It's a light right there at your feet for you to do what? Take the next step. And he's going to lead you and guide you as long as you keep acknowledging him and putting him first. He's going to show you the way, and he's going to bring little indicators that you are doing the right thing as he's been doing, because God is faithful.
And I know all that to be true, but what you know and what you feel are two different things. It can't go based on your feelings, but it's been a rough year and 9 months.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. And he says that he takes every single tear, and he puts it in a bottle. He cares for you. He knows you're hurting. It broke his heart when that happened. It broke his heart. The one thing that I even for me, going through all the stuff we're going through and everything like that, I have to keep telling myself that no matter what, God foresaw everything, and he can't change free will. That's one thing. As much as he would love to do, he can't change people's free will. He can't. He wants people to. He wants you to change. He hopes for the best, but at the end of the day, that free will thing is just, it's hard. It's hard to wrap your brain around,
It is.
Truly is. But I'm so thankful that I get to meet people like you, and even through all this tragedy and everything, exchanging ashes for beauty. God is allowing you to meet so many people and be the voice for Hunter, to be that trumpet out there, to be able to warn people about this stuff and let people know that, man, there is resources, and there is some very unhealthy people out there, very unhealthy people, bringing awareness to that. I mean, we cannot no longer walk in this life blinded and thinking stuff is okay, because that type of behavior is not okay. It is not okay.
No,
And
it's not. It's not. And if I can help one mom, one dad not have to go through what we went through on March 11th and every day since then all of this is worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All of Hunter's heart. Sorry, not to clarify, not all of losing Hunter.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'm ever going to get to a point that I think that was worth it. But the awareness and every conversation I get to have, and these guys who reach out to me sometimes months later after hearing me speak or seeing stuff on our website, that means everything to me. It really does, because it's a way that I can tangibly turn my grief into something helpful and useful. One of Hunter's friends reached out to me on Instagram last week and said, and I've been talking to this kid for almost 2 years now through DMs. And he shared with me that he was in a relationship like this. And he said, I'm still quiet about it. So thank you for being our...
Wow, man, that's just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, me too when I read it. Every time I think about it. And I'm like, well, that's a huge responsibility I have. And everybody who sits on my board and all of our volunteers, we all have this responsibility now. It's bigger than us.
Yes.
It's become bigger than Hunter, even though this is definitely will be his legacy, is his legacy, but it is bigger than him.
Man, it's crazy to think that through tragedy, there's so much hope and for people out there. You're doing an amazing thing, Shana. I know it's been really hard for you. I can't imagine. But you just keep strong, girl. Keep strong and keep plugging away and keep bringing that voice that brings hope to the men out there. I mean, for as manly as we are, we need a voice. I mean, honestly.
I know.
Because too many men, just for whatever reason, don't want to fight anymore. They don't want to argue. They want peace. Home should be a home of peace, not. Yeah. Especially after working 17, 18 hours or 24 hours and 24 on, 8 off or whatever, the crazy hours that are out there nowadays. You don't want to have to put up with that. You're trying to make a better life for your family.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So what could you share with the people that are in this situation that are listening right now?
Well, first and foremost, consider getting out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I said this on this interview, but I am speaking from a mother's perspective, not a clinician. I am not an expert. I am someone who's walked through losing her baby as a result of this. And so consider getting out. There are therapists who specialize in this, I'm finding out. And they will meet with you on Zoom, on the phone. You don't have to go in person. There are so many resources out there, and we list a bunch of them on our website. But I am also available, and I am at the other end of our Instagram, our Hunter's Heart Instagram. So you can send me a DM and we could start there with just a conversation. But don't let it continue. It's not going to end well. It really is not.
Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships at Bermudan and British Registry.
Este episodio es presentado por Honda. Descubra la nueva Honda Passport Trail Sport Todoterreno. La Passport más todoterreno que Honda haya imaginado jamás. Esta Passport cuenta con mayor altura al suelo, barras de techo en todas sus versiones y neumáticas especialmente diseñados para cualquier terreno. Además, disfruta todos tus viajes con el control de clima de 3 zonas, techo panorámico y opciones como asientos delanteros con calefacción y ventilación. Conoce más en honda.com/passport.
Yeah, especially if... No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, if she's willing to change, if she's willing to get help, that means, she's on this part of the spectrum, and that's okay. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've been trying and trying and trying, what I want people to understand is how dangerous this is. Hunter was not mentally ill. He did not suffer from depression and anxiety. I mean, I suffer from depression and anxiety, especially since I lost him. So no stigma. That just wasn't his situation.
Yeah.
And this destroyed him.
It's that constant need to try to fix the person who doesn't want to be fixed.
Yes.
It's maddening. I know I've dealt with it, and it doesn't lead anywhere fruitful. It doesn't. What I usually tell brothers and sisters out there is, if it's a girlfriend or a spouse, I tell the men, if they're believers, I tell them that he or she was God's first before they were yours. Let God deal with them. And if he needs to take them to deep waters, he will. That's a promise, And
if it's a girlfriend or a fiance, it's a whole lot easier than if it's a wife, and especially a wife with children, because I've heard some horror stories about that. That gets very complicated, but there are resources, there are therapists, there are clergy, there are friends and family who will give you wise counsel. You are not alone. That's probably it. You're not alone. I experienced something over the holidays, and I think God allowed me to experience it so I could have some understanding of how low it got for Hunter. And I came to a point Thanksgiving week. I hadn't gotten out of bed for a couple days, and I didn't want to go on. I really didn't. I felt so alone. I'm not alone. And I wasn't alone, but I felt alone. And that feeling of being alone is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the biggest message is you're not alone.
Yes, you're not alone, man. Reach out, get the help you need. People need you. People depend on you. People love you. And, stop being so selfish. You know what I mean? Just get the help. Please get the help. Shana, it's come to our time now. Can you please share with our audience how they can get a hold of you on Instagram and stuff like that? I know you mentioned that on the DMs.
Yeah. So Instagram, which is the most active social media site we have, it's Hunter's Heart with an underscore. But I think if you type in Hunter's Heart, you'll find it. You can go to our website, huntersheart.org, and all of our socials are there, along with a lot of other really good tools. Hunter's Story, a video of Hunter, the quizzes that I mentioned. So a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, so definitely go check her out, Hunter's Heart. Make sure you look at those quizzes. I'm going to go check them out right now. I think that's a valuable resource. And give her a like and follow. And please reach out. I mean, this is what these foundations like Hunter's Heart and the Show Up Dad Foundation are here for. We're here for you guys. So, reach out, DM us. We're here for you guys. So thank you once again. Thank you, Shana, for coming on and being an amazing guest. And God bless you in your endeavors.
Thank you.